We're going to look at different tools you can use for remote management. Let's just get into the list here. So you've got your good old classic administrative tools. Those are still there. You got your good old classic Microsoft Management Consoles. Those are still there. We'll do some demos on all this stuff. Something that's a little newer, I think it came out, I want to say maybe Vista or Windows 7, is this concept called RSAT, Remote Server Administration Tools. So prior to that, we had good old adminpack.msi, but that changed, of course, and now it's RSAT. And I'll show you where to go to find those and how to, if you have a Windows 8.1 system, let's say you want to manage a domain controller or manage a DNS server, manage a DHCP server, you can do that through the RSAT tools. We'll also take a look at WinRM, Windows Remote Management. This is something that's, that allows you to remotely manage a computer using the command line, basically. And we'll also look at PowerShell. We've got a whole section on PowerShell coming up, and that's kind of our second section here. I missed event viewer subscriptions. We'll take a look at that as well. So let's just get into it. Our first slide here then is administrative tools. These are still around. I'll show you where to go to find them in the demo. Let's just keep going here. You can make a custom MMC console. Here's a screenshot of that. I'll do that in the demo. And RSAT tools. This is what it looks like. Here's a screenshot. And again, I'll show you that in the demo. And finally, we'll look at event viewer subscriptions. There's actually quite a few questions on the Windows 8 exams about how do you set up an event viewer subscription. You know, what are all the settings and configurations for it? So we'll take a look at that. And let's just do a demo. So we've been kind of talking a lot the last couple modules. Let's do some hands-on this time. So our first thing is going to be administrative tools, and that has been not really moved, but it's a little harder to find now. Oops, let me close some windows out. Okay, so where are your administrative tools? They used to be in the Start menu, but now, of course, that's gone. Now it's the Start screen. Well, if you head out to the Start screen, I don't see administrative tools here, and you can go to the All Apps screen. And even here, it's you can kind of look around. It's kind of hard to find these administrative tools. They're a bit hidden now. So, gosh, where do you go? Well, let's head back out to the Windows desktop, and we'll go to the Charms bar. And you can go to Settings. And again, no admin tools here, no admin tools in PC Settings. You have to go to the one remaining location, and that's Control Panel. So in Control Panel, there you go, there's administrative tools. Now you can get to these tools through search if you remember the names of the tools. So for example, if you want to look at Event Viewer, you can just do a search on the Charms bar. By the way, I did Windows key Q for query. You could search for, let's say, Event Viewer, and notice, you know, it'll just show up in the list as an available choice. But if you don't remember the name or you want to find the actual location, then you want to head out to Administrative Tools then. So that's that. That's really all we have to say about that. Some other methods to administer your computer. You could use computer management. There's a lot of ways to get to computer management. I'm going to use the Power User menu down here. Right-click, and there's computer management. A lot of these admin tools are actually here as well. So disk management, computer management. So computer management, this is a classic tool. It's been around for a while. And again, you got a lot of these things that we've seen before. And now one of the things about these consoles to be aware of, with this is called a Microsoft Management Console, or just a Microsoft console. And you can right-click the name and say connect to another computer. So you can manage another computer using this snap-in. Let me just add in London DC1. That's our other computer. Let's see if this works here. Yeah, so now I'm connecting to London DC1 remotely, and we're able to get in here and start managing it. Well, it's going to take some time to load up here. But anyway, the point being, you've got a Microsoft console where you can connect to machines remotely. Well, here's something else you can do. Let's go to Start Run, and we'll say MMC for Microsoft Management Console. This opens up a blank console with nothing in it. And then what you do is go to File, Add, Remove Snap-ins. And snap-ins, that's another word for all those things we just saw in admin tools. All those MSC files are snap-ins. So this is a list, again, of just basically all those admin tools, plus a couple other things that aren't listed in admin tools. But here's computer management, for example. You can add in device manager, disk management, event viewer, all kinds of things. Let's pick on computer management again, just for the fun of it. Let's see what happens when we add this in. It's going to say, oh, well, which computer do you want to manage? The local computer or a remote computer? So let's say we add in the local one. And one of the cool things about making your own console file like this is you can add the same snap-in in twice and say, all right, well, for the second version, let's do London DC1. And I'll just click OK on this. And now notice we've got a custom console file here where we can do computer management on both computers.
And you can save this.
And you can save the console file, absolutely. Save as, and then it's going to save as a MSC file. So That's one of the cool things about these MMC snap-ins. You can just customize this any way you like, and create the console that works for you. So that's MMC consoles and admin tools. Let's see here. We also had RSAT to talk about. And the way to get to RSAT is, again, through Control Panel. And in Control Panel, we're going to go to Programs and Features. Notice that's now in the Power User menu as well. But just to go the usual route, Control Panel, and then Programs and Features. There we go. Programs and Features. And you'll see a list of all the programs that are installed in your system. Upper left-hand corner, though, you can go to Turn Windows Features On or Off. And this will take a second to load up.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there you go.
And in this list, we'll have quite a few things. Slight tangent, notice you can install Hyper-V on Windows 8. It's fantastic. I love this. So as long as you have a Pro or Enterprise Edition, it's 64-bit CPU, you can install Hyper-V. You can do everything in Hyper-V that you can do on the server version of Hyper-V, except for just a few minor things. Well, not minor, but a few things that you can only do in the server version. But this is a pretty, 90% of the features are there.
Great for dev environments. Great if you're testing on different versions of code, different applications, and for compatibility. So it's one place where you can actually have a desktop environment be very, very useful for a developer or a tester without having to have all the server resources you're used to with checking in, out, buddy testing, that kind of thing. So this is a great feature.
All right. So we'll head out to the Power User menu. Now again, Event Viewer is just nicely put in the Power User menu for you. You can always search for it. You could go to Control Panel Admin Tools to get to it. You can go to Computer Management. Sometimes there's just numerous ways to get to the same tool. And so here's Event Viewer. Oh, by the way, if you like your run command, that's going to be event VWR.
That's totally nerdy.
MSC. Well, that's why I'm here, right?
No, I love it.
I joke with people. I got the laser surgery on my eyes, so I don't have the big glasses anymore, so people can't tell I'm a nerd anymore.
No, I can tell.
Thanks a lot. Yeah. Okay, so Event Viewer, this got redesigned in Vista. So if you haven't looked at Event Viewer in quite some time, then you might check this out. And we still have our good old classic Windows logs that have been around forever. Security and system and application logs, those have been around forever.
Generally, the first place you look is here, so this is a good tool.
Yeah. And you can, however, make it with something new called a custom view, where you're saying, you can decide what you want to see in the Event Viewer console here, whether it's warnings or errors or critical or informational, and from which logs. So you can totally customize this. Now there's a custom one in here called Administrative Events, and what this one does is it pulls all the errors and warnings from all your logs in one location. The idea being this might be the first place you go to look to troubleshoot your computer.
I do.
An Event Viewer. And also, they've added a bunch of logs. So if you go down to Applications and Services logs and go down to Microsoft Windows, you will see there are a heck of a lot of logs in here now. This is a crazy amount of logs.
Yeah, the good news there is they aren't intuitively named. So many
some of them.
So, yeah.
A couple I'll point out, there is a group policy log that can help you troubleshoot group policy. We'll talk about that later. And we'll also talk later about App Locker. So there's an App Locker log. So we'll talk about App Locker. Nothing in there for now. But yeah, just an extreme amount of events now. And then that's another reason why you might want to do a custom view. You can say from which logs do you want to pull events for your own personal, perusal of all these events. Now we came here for subscriptions. So let's say you go down the lower left-hand corner here. There's subscriptions. You can subscribe to events on a remote computer. The idea is that you're pulling those events from the remote computer to your computer, and those events from the remote computer show up in your forwarded events log. I'm going to cancel this window. Take a look. Up in Windows logs, there is a log called forwarded events. Now, to me, that sounds the opposite. To me, it sounds like this computer has forwarded events to another computer. It's the opposite, though. Events that you're pulling from remote systems to your system show up in this log, the forwarded events log. They've been forwarded to you. So let's set this up. Lower left-hand corner, you click on subscriptions. It says, oh, do you want to start the Windows Event Collector service? That's kind of a very intuitively named. Oh, we're collecting events from a remote system.
So go
Windows
for it.
Event Collector service. I am not going to go for it, and the reason is you have to know how to do this at the command line. So we'll open up a PowerShell window, and the command line for this is WEC, Windows Event Collector, utility. And then you run, I'll do a /question mark. You can see there's a lot of switches in here. But basically, you just run this again with a QC, quick config. That's what that stands for. QC, quick config. it says, oh, okay, so the startup for this service will be changed to basically startup. Yes, let's go ahead and do that. And now the Windows Event Collector service was configured successfully. So if we go back to Event Viewer, we can now make a subscription to collect events.
Okay.
I'll click somewhere else, click back on this, and we do not get the prompt now to start that service. Okay, then next thing is to make a subscription. So you just right-click, make a new subscription. And there are, we'll call this a test subscription, okay? And there's two ways to do this. One's called collector-initiated, the other's called source-initiated. Collector, now we are the collector. We're collecting events from a remote system to our computer. So if we set up the subscription, this is called a collector-initiated subscription. So we're setting this up, and we would say, which remote computers do we want to connect to pull their events to us?
Got it.
Now, another way to go about this, though, is called source computer initiated, which means the source computer is going to try and send their events to us. Okay. Instead of us pulling the events, they're going to push the events. And again, we would have to select, well, which computers or which groups of computers do we want to set this up with. This is going to require group policy, though, because we have to go out and tell the source computers to forward their events to us.
I see. Okay.
So this requires a group policy. Collector initiated does not require a group policy.
That's a good call out.
Bottom half here is, what events do you want to collect? So you can select events, critical, error, warning. Which event logs do you want to pull from? Notice you can pull from any log you choose, even all the detailed Windows logs, any log you want. Let's just say we're pulling from classic Windows logs. And you can do by event IDs, by certain time periods. So just the same kind of filtering mechanisms we have in Event Viewer anyway. So you choose. You choose what kind of events you want to pull into your computer. We're not going to actually do this. I'm just going to show you all the settings. I'm going to cancel out of that. And one other thing is you have to be an admin on the remote system to pull events to your system. Right? If we're going to a remote system, then the default behavior is that our machine account must have read access to the source logs. So our computer account needs to be added to the administrators group on the remote system. Now, if you're in a domain environment and you're working with, say, a domain controller or something like that, then you should have the necessary permissions.
Should be covered,
you just be on the safe side. Just remember, you got to be an admin on the remote system.
Got it.
Okay, so we'll skip some of this stuff and just go back out. And so be aware of what collector initiated means, and be aware of what source initiated means. And also be aware, if you want to go out and talk to a remote computer, you're probably going through that remote computer's firewall. So for this to work, we have to run a command on the remote system. So let's head back out to PowerShell. Now let's pretend we're on the remote system.
Okay.
And here you would need to start up WinRM. That's Windows Remote Management. Lots of options here. On the remote system, you would run WinRM. Wow. Keyboard issues here. PEBCAC issues. WinRM quick config. Here we go. And that's what you would run on the remote computer. What this will do is open up what's called a WinRM listener, which is opening up a hole in the firewall. And by default, this opens up port 80 in the firewall. So if we think about firewalls, most firewalls allow port 80, port 443 through. Now on a client system, you may not allow 80 and 443 through, but let's say you're going through a network firewall to get to that client system. Well, yeah, you're probably going to get through on port 80. That's why they set it up this way. So if you want to, you can require that that's port 443, HTTPS. If you want to, that's going to require a certificate. We're just going to keep this simple, though, just port 80, HTTP. So if you just run WinRM quick config on the remote computer, that's all you've got to do. And then you would press enter. It says, do you want to start the WinRM service? And say yes. And then it's going to do that. And then notice it's going to say, create a WinRM listener, HTTP.
Great.
To enable the, it's going to enable the firewall exception to allow HTTP traffic through.
So you can get through now.
And the umbrella for this is called WSMan. This is Windows Services Management, I believe. So that's the umbrella for all this stuff. But basically, WinRM is Windows Remote Management. And something else you could do is run WinRS. And WinRS allows you to run a command.
Do you mind doing a clear screen real quick?
Oh, sure. Yeah, it's a bit low on the screen, isn't it? Another thing you do is WinRS. Now, WinRS allows you to run a command on a remote system. So if you connect to a remote system, you can do, for example, ipconfig and see the ipconfig output for the remote system on your system.
Right.
So WinRS is a command line way to connect remotely and run commands. We're going to look at the PowerShell way, though. We're going to spend more time on that. We're going to PowerShell to a remote computer and run commands that way.
Yeah, good.
But so for the exams, though, you got to be aware of what WinRM is and what WinRS is, and you got to know how to set up an event viewer subscription. Event viewer subscription, you got to remember on the event viewer collector computer, you got to run WEC util, Windows Event Collector Utility, and on the remote system, you got to run WinRM quick config to open up the hole in the firewall. So next up is PowerShell. So lots of slides here on PowerShell. Now, if you're Windows 8 exams, you just have to know some of the basics of PowerShell, how to get around some of the basic commandlets. You don't have to know how to make a script. You don't have to know about variables and some of the more advanced concepts. But we'll give you just a quick crash course here, a good overview of PowerShell. If you've never used it before, it's not that bad. It's actually, once you start using it, it's pretty easy, actually. But sometimes there's that fear of getting into a command line system for the first time, especially if you've been using the GUI for a long time. But once you get into it, it's fun. It's pretty easy to use. And then I think, Brad, you can comment. We've got a ton of PowerShell videos out there. So
loads.
I'm going to scratch the surface here. But if you want more information, more detail.
On NVA, we have a couple of Jeffrey Snover, who's pretty much the guru when it comes to PowerShell. Has some great, we have like 3 or 4 of those. So not only are they good videos or good NVA resources, but also there's a real strong community around this. It's independent of Microsoft. There's a real strong community inside of Microsoft run by Jeffrey Snover. So take a look at that. I would say that you could probably do anything you want in PowerShell that you could do in any other kind of centralized management at this point. There's pretty much everything can be done. And I would also say get good at it because it's something that is really good at building your career. I mean, it's just one of those things you can say you can do. And if you've worked in the old days where you're writing batch files in DOS or any kind of scripting, it's probably one of the easiest scripting languages I've ever used. And with the ISC, it becomes even better. So I really encourage you, if you are pursuing a career as an IT pro, as an administrator, whether you're moving from the help desk, desktop to the server environment, have some touch on PowerShell, and I think what you're about to show is great. These are great little commandlets that you're going to be showing. But is there something you want to do, look at it from a task-based approach. Look at what you want to do, and in your search engine, Bing, preferably, what you want to do, and then type PowerShell, and it's almost a guarantee you're going to find 3 or 4 really good resources for how to enable that and use that in your organization. That's my pitch. Now back to you, Zach.
Okay. Yeah, there's so many great scripts out there. Yeah. If you ever don't know, like you said, you just search, and somebody's probably already written a script to do what you want to do.
I think you're 99.9% sure of that happening.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go through the slides then. The first slide is just an overview. We've already kind of seen this. What does it look like? It's this blue screen. I shouldn't say blue screen. Oops.
Oh, yeah. Oops. Yeah, we should have made the screen maybe.
We're trying to make the blue screen good now instead of bad.
Yeah.
There we go.
That's true. I hadn't thought of that.
So we've seen that. Let's keep going. So what is it? It's a command line based. It's a shell to run all these commandlets. If you look at the bottom half of the slide, there's this concept called commandlets, which have a verb-noun format. So you've got the verb, that's the first part, like get, set, enable, disable, start, stop. These are all verbs.
Good conjugation there.
Yeah, thank you. And then the second half is the noun, the object on which you want to run this verb. So you can start service. There's that example on the PowerPoint slide. Hey, you can stop service. You can enable something, disable something. Mm-hmm. I have to think of something. Let's just do. Here's some examples of some PowerShell commandlets for networking. Now, notice even for basic stuff like ping and ipconfig, if you look on the right-hand side, ping and ipconfig, they're making PowerShell equivalents for everything now. Yeah. So once you learn it the PowerShell way, I think the idea is that that's going to be that way for forever, right? For decades, maybe. Who knows?
It's here to stay.
Yeah. So we're going to use some of these. So we'll do a test connection. We'll do that instead of a ping. And we'll see if that's any different or not. And we'll do a get net IP configuration instead of an IP config. And we'll see how that looks. So our next slide says, hey, let's go demo. So let's go demo. Okay, so we'll head out to the virtual machine and maximize that. There we go. And we'll clear screen on this. I'll do a CLS, that's a clear screen. That's a good first point, is that a lot of your command prompt tricks that you've used in the past still work. Yeah, they still work with PowerShell.
A lot of DOS commands work here. It's kind of
a lot of DOS commands. In fact, let's just jump to that. There's a PowerShell commandlet called getAlias. And I'm going to press Enter on this. It's going to fly by, and I'll do that for a reason. Okay, so that kind of just flew by. That's not very useful if it goes by so fast. So here's a trick. You can do press the up arrow key for previously typed commands.
Great.
And then you can do a vertical bar. That's called piping.
Pipe. Yep.
And we're going to pipe that into the word more. And I always laugh at this one. It's like you actually want less. You want to do one screen at a time. This is, I think, this is an old Unix.
It is.
Unix trick here.
Yeah.
So this will take you one page at a time. So say pipe into more to get less, and then we'll do one page at a time. And so we'll see all the aliases. And so, for example, I did CLS, and so that's an alias. What that really does now is the PowerShell commandlet clear host. And there's some other ones too, like good old classic dir for display what's in your directory. That's a PowerShell commandlet now, get child item.
One-to-one mapping here.
So when you're doing the more command, you press the space bar to get another page, and you press the enter key to get one line at a time, or you press Q just to get out of the list altogether. Okay, so CLS was to clear the screen, but we changed that to, what was it, clear host? Let's see here, clear host. There we go, clear host. So that's a trick then with PowerShell. So if there's an alias in question you're not sure about, like what is what is dir? You say get alias dir, and it just tells you, oh, okay, what you need to do there is type get child item. So dir right now gives us a directory listing of our user profile, administrator A datum. Let's see what that does.
I think you're off the scope.
What happened there?
There you go.
Oh, there we go. Just took a little delay there. Okay, then we got get child item. Let's see what that does. Well, look at that. It's the exact same thing. That's what an alias is, right? It's the exact same thing. It's just one name for another name. Now, something else you can do is make your own. So you can say set alias and make your own alias. Let me do a clear screen. Some habits die hard. I'm going to stick with CLS. That's the other advantage of aliases, though, is that there's a smaller number of letters. So let's do get alias again.
I hate to bring this up now, but when you're in the integrated scripting environment, all of this is auto-completed, so if you can't really remember, it can kind of fall out for you. You get a choice.
Oh,
so,
sure.
So this is kind of where I play with the
I
can't quite remember experience.
Yeah. Okay, so as an example, we've got CLS was clear host. But look at one of the points of all these aliases is there's just a small number of letters so that you can do things more quickly.
Right.
So you can make your own aliases as long as they're not already taken. So you make your own alias for maybe a long PowerShell commandlet that you don't want to type through. Like, hey, maybe disable PowerShell breakpoint. You don't want to type all that out. You can just do DBP here.
Right.
So, now another trick though is, let's say you do want to type this out, then you can say disable PS and start pressing the tab key. And the tab key is command completion. So you can complete commands. You type out enough letters to be unique, and then you press tab to
forgot about this. Yeah, this is
command
great.
completion.
Yeah, forgot about that.
Okay, so we'll erase that. So let's do another clear screen here. Now, one of the first things I like to show is just git command. What are all the PowerShell commandlets that are out there?
Oh my goodness.
Git command, and we'll do pipe that into more to get less. And and so here we'll see a list of everything. So we'll see aliases are in here, actual PowerShell functions are in here. Let's just look at the verb-noun pairing again, though. So we've got adds. In fact, I'm just going to get the whole list.
Add, get, remove, set, start.
Let's just do the whole list, and then I'll scroll back up. Okay, so scrolling back up, look at all these verbs. So we've got we had add, enable, disable, convert, clear. We've got export, import, format, get. Just a lot of simple verbs. Once you get these verbs down, that's pretty easy, right? Import, invoke, move, new. Okay. A classic one is get and set. Get would be to read information. Set would be to modify information. Get and set. So once you get that down, then you just have to worry about what are the names of the objects. So, for example, let's work with services. We can do this. Here's a cool trick you can use called wildcard characters. You can say get command. Let's say you want to get commands that revolve around services. So I'm going to add in the word service with an asterisk on each end. Let's just see what happens here. And we can see any PowerShell commandlets that have the word service in them. And so we can, for example, we can say get service, start a service, stop a service, restart a service.
So anyone from the DOS world or the Unix world should feel really comfortable using this wildcard. This is a great way to scope things out. So
absolutely. Now let's say you want to let's say you want to stop a service. Let's say you're not sure what to type in next.
I'm not.
Yeah, so here's the other major trick to tell people about is, how do you get help? The command prompt you would do set start service.
Okay.
And you would do /?, but that doesn't work here. That doesn't work in PowerShell. So the trick in PowerShell is to type out get help, and then the commandlet on which you would like to get help. So in this case, it's going to be start service.
Okay.
And now you can get the help file. And it says, oh, you want to update the help file, okay. And, oh, we don't have an internet connection. This might take some time here. Well, that's a nice feature, though. PowerShell will automatically update your help files for you as long as you have an internet connection.
Yeah, I think we can give up hope here.
I think I made a mistake here.
Demo machine. No, that's all right, though. This is important.
I'll just close that out.
Because they do get updated, and this is a dynamic way of updating that guidance on the PowerShell.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is a good thing to know.
Okay, so just remember get help, and then the name of the commandlet for any commandlet you want to get help on.
Good.
Let's see here. Some other simple commands would be like get process. This looks kind of like task manager.
It really does.
Got
look
your
like
process
that.
IDs and CPU usage and
What's
process
running and
names.
how they're using it.
So get process, that's kind of a classic one. Get service, you can get a list of all your services and whether they're running or not. Now here you're seeing kind of the more the actual name of the services instead of the human-friendly name. But then on the right-hand side, you'll see the human-friendly display name for all the services. So you can do a lot of things with PowerShell at the command line. I'm trying to think what else we can do here. Let's do PowerShell remoting. Okay. So you can run PowerShell commands on a remote system. Now to do this, you have to enable PowerShell remoting on the remote system. So let's go to a remote system and test this out. So I need to go to a different virtual machine. We're going to go to our London DC1 virtual machine. And I think I need to change the resolution on this. It's not quite fitting right. Sorry about that. And we'll change this to our proper resolution. And then we'll go full screen.
So just to reiterate, PowerShell remoting must be enabled on the remote computer. Remotely invokes commands. It can remotely invoke scripts, and it can create remote sessions at the PowerShell command prompt. So this is the value here. Ian?
Yes. Okay. Let's do this. Let's make it 18. Nice big window here. Okay, so what we need to do is let's do this. Let's try get service, and we're going to get the service WinRM because PowerShell remoting uses the same service, Windows Remote Management, which is using port 80. And right now it says it's running. Well, that's great.
That's good and listening.
That's what we want to see. So now we want to do enable. Boy, I can't type today. We're going to enable PS for PowerShell, and I'm just going to press Tab.
Yeah, I like this.
There's a couple things in here, and here's PS remoting. So we'll enable PS remoting. And it says, well, look at this. Look at what we're really doing here. WinRM quick config. That's what it's really doing. It's starting up the WinRM service. Well, it's already started. Okay. And it's going to open up, it's going to change the service startup type to automatic. It's going to create a, quote, listener. That's a WinRM listener to accept requests on any IP address. Got it. And it's enabling the Windows Firewall inbound rule exception for WS management traffic. So we're basically saying on port 80, any source IP is allowed to come through on port 80 to run remote commands as long as that person has administrator privilege.
And what did you say earlier? 443 was HTTPS? Is that
443 is HTTPS.
Okay,
so that's the secure form. Right. So I'm going to just say yes to all here and just enable all of this stuff. But if you obviously on a domain controller, you'd want to be much more careful. Yes. Perhaps use the HTTPS and not the. You can also restrict which IPs. Not any IP address. You can say which source IPs can come in and use this.
Just choose one.
Okay. So, but the bottom line is we have enabled it. We have enabled the ability to run remote PowerShell commands on this computer on DC1. Okay. Now, before we do that, let me just do I'll scroll up here as a way of clear screen. Let's do an IP config. What's our IP address on the DC? Our IP address is 172.16.0.10.10. What's the new way to do IP config, Brad? Do you remember?
I don't.
Just putting you on the spot. I shouldn't do that. It's get net IP configuration.
Okay.
And we'll run this for a second, and we should get the exact same information, but formatted slightly differently. Formatted slightly differently. So this is the new way to do IP config. And so we still see, roughly the same information, slightly different formatting, but we still see the IP address, right? .10. That's the big thing here.
Interesting, the Hyper-V network adapter. That's just...
Oh yeah, this is a virtual machine. So
right. But I don't think we'd have figured that out quickly.
Okay, so let's go back to the client system. So we're trying to go to the client system, and we're pretending that you're an administrator, you're on the client system, you're trying to run commands on your server, that kind of thing. So what do we do there? Now on the client system, we have to do what's called enter a PowerShell session. And we have to specify the computer name that we want to remote into. So enter PS session, computer name, and our computer name is London DC1. And that's it. So we'll run this, we'll see what happens. And it looks like nothing happens, but look at the front of the line, and we have this in brackets here, Lun DC1,
there,
which is indicating to us that we are running commands now on the domain controller. So let's go ahead and run that IP config, and it wasn't IP config, it was get net IP configuration. And then we'll see if we get the .10 address. We should see the .10.
There you go.
So we ran the command on the remote system, and we're seeing the output that's coming from that remote system. That's a .10. Now I'm going to go ahead and exit the PowerShell session. So we're back onto our local system. I'll run that get net IP configuration again, just to prove that this is our IP address now on the local machine. It's not .10. It's I think it's .50. Yeah, here's our local IP address. Just to show you that we did indeed, enter a PowerShell session on a remote system. We ran a command on that remote system, got that output, and exited that session. Now we're back onto
two different machines.
Yeah, so that's a PowerShell remoting is so powerful. It's fantastic.
It is.
Now that's for an individual machine. If you want to do PowerShell remoting on more than one machine, there's another commandlet for that. It's called invoke command. So invoke command. You have to specify which computer names you want to invoke commands on. And now, invoke command is used for multiple computers. So you got to list them all off. So we'll say London DC1, comma, London Client 1. We'll run the command on both systems.
Hopefully they're running.
And what I'm going to do here is, it's called a script block. And in curly braces here, we're going to do get event log. So we're going to say get some event log messages. Get event log. And we're going to say log name security log. So not just any log, but the security log. Hey, give us the newest 10 events from the security log on both systems. So we'll press enter on this, and this will take a little bit of time to go out to the systems and find all the events. And then notice we've got 20 events, 10 from each system. PS computer name on the right-hand side, the first 10 events are the DC, bottom 10 events are the client.
I see.
And we just see the latest 10 events in the security log for each. So that's an invoke command to run PowerShell commands on multiple computers.
Excellent. Please.
I'm going to close out the PowerShell window, and we need to open up the PowerShell integrated scripting environment.
Finally.
So right-click.
I thought you were going to forget about this.
So let's go. Now I'm going to run this as administrator, as I usually do for PowerShell stuff. Integrated scripting environment. So what's the deal here? Well, we're going to find out once this opens up.
There we go.
Okay, so the PowerShell ISE, Integrated Scripting Environment, on the right-hand side, you'll see a list of all your commandlets. It's kind of like the get command, but just laid out for you on the right-hand side, so you can click on these instead of typing them out. You've got a main window here that looks kind of like PowerShell, but we're missing something. We want to view the script pane. The idea behind this is really to have longer PowerShell scripts in PS1 files and to be able to debug your scripts, so your longer, more complex PowerShell scripts.
Yeah, you could line up a bunch of scripts, and it didn't work, it did work. I'd like to refine, so you can kind of edit this part of the script pane, which is, I think, the most valuable part of this, instead of arrow up, arrow up, arrow down, arrow down. So this is where I find it. I can experiment here, make a few mistakes,
absolutely,
blow it completely, and then go, oh, I'm not going to do that. I'll pull that out and try a different one. And this feels really good to me.
Yeah,
it's
like you
testing
said,
out the scripts, especially if you're new to this whole thing.
Absolutely, like you said, it's great for testing.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Yeah. So
you can type commands. Let me back up here. You can go down to the blue part and type commands, and it's just going to run like normal, normal PowerShell. So I'll just do a CLS on that, clear that out. Now up top is where you write your script. You can do get command again, but notice it's suggesting. I forget, they call this IntelliSense or something like that. It's intelligently suggesting which. I may have gotten my acronym wrong there. But they're suggesting which command to type in.
Used to be, yeah.
They're suggesting what command. Autocomplete, yeah. So as long as you type in enough unique characters or letters, and notice you can scroll down here, and this is fantastic. So let's say we want to do a set service. It's filling it in. Now, it's also showing you to the right-hand side here what else you should type in for all your possible parameters. So they're trying to help you out. They're trying to make this so easy to do PowerShell now. Okay, so let's do get service. And at the very top, you can press F5. F5 will run that script down below. And it's not really a script, it's just one command.
A little button up there too, by the way.
Yeah, the button's up here as well.
Yeah.
Run script, F5. Okay, so we've got a script. Let's open it up. And this is going to be, we'll go File, Open. And it's supposed to be in our E drive, Lab Files, Module 3. And we've got a script here called services.ps1. Now, before we open this up in the ISE, let's open this up in Notepad. Oh, is this already associated with ISE? It must be.
It must be, yeah.
Okay. Oh, it's already associated with ISE. Okay. All right, well. Anyway, we can see it. It doesn't matter. Come on. Here's our script, services.ps1.
Yeah,
and another one of the cool features of ISE is it's color-coded, so it's easier to visually tell what's going on with your script.
Right.
Comment fields have a pound sign in front of the line, which means don't process this when running the script. Oops, didn't mean to do that. So saying the list of services on the local computer is read into the variable $services. And this is our first concept of what's a variable. $, and then a word is a variable. What we're saying is take everything you get, I keep dragging and dropping, take everything you get in get service, and input that into this variable $services.
That's right.
So let's play around with this a little bit.
It's always a good idea to comment anything you do. So the more comments, the better, especially if you're creating custom scripts.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to select this line, and we're going to run this selection. Notice running just this selection and not the entire script is F8. So down below, it's as if we had just typed that in. $services equals get service. Okay, so notice the output here, and let's just run the entire script here. Let's just see what happens. Maybe that's a better way to go.
Cross our fingers. Let's push a button.
So I'm going to press F5. Notice down below it's listing off the entire path to the script here. And what it's doing is it's getting a list of services.
There you go.
And we've got something called a for each loop. And we're saying for each service, if the status is running, make it the color green. If the status is not running, make it the color red. But if you notice down below, it is not doing that.
Yeah, there's nothing.
It's not doing that. So what's going on here is we've missed something in the script. This is kind of what debugging is. Why isn't the color showing up? And you got to try and figure this out. So the problem here is that the line 14 here, right host is the way you want to display stuff in PowerShell. So we're missing a parameter here in this line, and we need to type in foreground color. Notice PowerShell's ISE is just suggesting it to you. Just tab it out. There we go. Foreground color. We're going to make that dollar color variable. And then we're going to just click somewhere else and run the script again. And I'm going to say, don't tell us about that again. It's going to save that script. So it's going to run the script again, and now we should have the foreground color. There we go. Yeah, so we had just a missing parameter in our script, and this is allowing us to try and help troubleshoot that.
Sure is helpful for differentiating what's going on, though. That's really nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Something else you can do is you can save your scripts. Let's do a file save or save as. Let's save the script, and we'll save this as services version 2.ps1. And then we can go out to, let's just go back out to regular PowerShell just to kind of prove a point. We'll go out to regular PowerShell. We'll change our directory, which, remember, get alias? What's the dir alias? And that's, sorry, I wanted to change directory, not list a directory. Anyway, that's set location. I'm just kind of being funny here. So we'll say set location. We want to go to that lab files directory, lab files. And we had module 3. And then now we can do a dir and see that our script is in the list. And to run a script in the PowerShell window, you have to do a period / and then the name of the script. So we'll do services version 2.PowerShell 1. So this will list off all the services in green and red. And of course, a PS1 file is just a file. You can copy that out to any systems that you want to run this script on. And speaking of scripts, I got to add something else into our PowerShell discussion, which is script execution policy. So there's something called an execution policy. Now, we're able to run these scripts, and why is that? Because right now our execution policy is unrestricted.
Oh, yes.
By default, it is restricted. So you got to be aware of that, because you might try and run a script and it doesn't run. So you might have to say set execution policy, and then you'd say unrestricted to make sure you can run all scripts.
Right. Yeah, this is a gotcha that's common out there.
Okay. One thing I'll mention to you guys is that the 688 exam is the one that has the Windows Intune questions, and there are quite a few. You do have to know Windows Intune. You can't just ignore it and hope you get by with the exams. Now, if you want to learn Windows Intune, you can take a course, or what I did when I first learned it was you can just get a free 30-day trial. And once you get in there, it's actually really easy to use. The GUI is really nice. It's very simple. We've got a screenshot of the GUI coming up, so it's not that hard to learn. But you may want to just get your free trial, go check it out, click around, make sure you know all the settings inside Windows Intune.
To learn.
So let's go to our PowerPoint then. Overview. What is it? It's a service to help. It's a cloud-based service to help you manage your internet-connected clients. If you have a small business, perhaps small enterprise, you can use that for your computers if you don't have a domain. If you're large enough to have a domain, that's okay. You can still use Windows Intune to manage all your internet-connected devices, mobile devices as well. You can do mobile device or removal policies, like if you want corporate data to be wiped, remote wipe with Windows Intune. So you can deploy updates, software, do monitoring. You can do reporting. You got any big picture things? You hear a lot about Windows Intune.
Yeah, I love it. I'm just a big proponent of it. But the things that you lift on the slide there, endpoint protection is one of those things that people actually don't think of as in
sure. Okay.
So that's really a nice thing to have. I mean, it's one of the great reasons to go out there if you do have a small organization just for that alone. Remote assistance, it does feature that, so that's kind of cool. That's about all I'll say about that.
Okay.
Since the next slide's more fun.
Okay. All right. Let's go to the next slide then. Here's our fun graphic here of Windows Intune. So these are all the devices. And again, we're thinking, Windows 8.1 now. We're talking about enterprise. We're talking, bring your own device. We're talking about mobile devices, tablets, smartphones. You can manage these things with Windows Intune and laptops, tablets. All these things that are out there that you want to manage that are kind of out more internet-based, you can manage with Windows Intune. Windows Intune saves some of its stuff to Windows Azure Active Directory. And what you can do then is if you have user accounts already in your Active Directory internally, you can do what's called the DIRSync tool, the directory synchronization tool, synchronize your user accounts in Active Directory out to Windows Azure. That way you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
So let's say you've got several hundred clients you want to set up in Windows Intune. You can just do the DIRSync, then you have all your user accounts in Windows Intune just right there.
It just pushes it out there.
Yeah.
If we could get back to the graphic, there's an interesting component to that. So you have the Active Directory. There's that read-only DIRSync. It's a push out to the Windows Azure Active Directory. Not the same thing, but they are both Active Directories. There's the Intune that consumes that. Is there one more click there? Because when we're talking about Android and Windows Phone,
there we go.
Then we have the Exchange side. So a lot of users out there are very much familiar with how Exchange ActiveSync works. So that's really kind of, I would say, I don't know, the corner case of the anomaly where you're using Android and Windows Phone 7. Without sticking my neck out, that will change sometime soon with Intune. Intune's one of these products that changes all the time. So even the screenshot we're going to show of Intune has changed a bit on the UI because it is a service and it's something that's updated like we do with our Azure products. But the real key here is Active Directory. You've already got it. You push it out to Windows Azure Active Directory. Intune consumes it and it pushes it out to those RT devices, Windows 8, Windows Phone 8, WinPhone 8, iOS, and all of our standard desktop configurations down there from 8.1 right on down to, I think it should say XP, SP2 actually. But anyway, all the way down to XP, which will soon be dropping off the radar. So it's cool. It's really cool the way it works.
All right. So next up is, for this to work, you have to install a piece of software on the client system. It's called the Windows Intune client, or client agent.
Yeah.
And however you deploy software, you can deploy the Windows Intune client service, client software. And then here they're just saying, well, how do you verify? How do you know you've deployed it? You'll see the devices in your Windows Intune Administrator console. You can also, at the bottom half here, there'll be certain services and files and things installed in the client system for you to tell. For example, you were mentioning the endpoint protection. So Windows Defender on the client system will turn into Windows Intune endpoint protection.
Yeah.
Here's a screenshot of what the users can see. This is called the Windows Intune Center. Notice the very first thing there, they can get applications from the, quote, company portals. You can deploy applications to your Intune clients. You can deploy updates, endpoint protection, remote assistance. Down lower left-hand corner, a bit tough to see, but you can get help desk information down there, so the end user can get some help if they're having trouble with Intune. The administrator console, just basically have to have permission to use it and have a later enough browser to use it. Bottom half here, the URL is admin.manage.microsoft.com. That's how you get to your Intune administrator portal. Now this is kind of a screenshot of the administrator console, from what I remember.
Yeah.
But just like the icons were pulled out, so you don't see the window, but this is basically what you see.
Yeah, the UI will have a console, and you'll see pretty much all of these. The icons may have changed a bit, but each one of those system over reports, policy, all of that will be showing up on the left margin of the console. So you kind of pick and choose those, and you can think of it almost as a tabular form for managing these things. So there's the title, and there's the icon, and then the context changes. So we just put them up there just so you kind of get a high-level view of what what Intune can and cannot do. Let's move to the next one. That's a good slide.
I'll just point out, for certification purposes, you could get questions on any one of these icons. So make sure you do get in there and use Windows Intune and know what's in all these different locations. And I think there are two slides left here. One is on policies.
Yeah.
So you can push out policies to all your Intune clients. This is not the same thing as group policy. This has nothing to do with group policy. These are Intune policies. Where you can, require certain settings that are there. Now, especially for mobile devices, you can have remote wipe policies. So if they leave the company or their device is stolen, you can wipe all that corporate data off their device.
And the key on this slide is the bottom bullet, kind of the kicker. Policies are overwritten by group policies.
Yeah. If you're using group policy, then these are,
so this is kind of the difference between you're fully cognizant of the idea that these are remote devices. Yeah. And generally, you're kind of managing them a bit lighter way, but that group policy will come down there and push right through. So keep that in mind.
And our last slide here for Windows Intune is that this can be integrated with System Center Configuration Manager. So basically, you can do all the stuff in Intune in your System Center Configuration Manager console. So that's the integration of the console. And then take a look at this table here. So, for example, remote wipe is supported on all types of devices except for RT devices. You can just kind of see where all the capabilities lie. So, like I said, it's for mobile devices. It's really for iOS, Android, Windows 8, phones, tablets. Better control management over those things.
Right.